Hi everyone, welcome back. I've missed you all a lot, and this week we're going to have a little look at some of the astrology we've missed because there's been a couple of few really like significant shifts and transits that I want to get into, as well as looking at the energy of the week ahead. So this is a big and loud week, to say the least. So it's quite chaotic with an undertone of grounding, to be fair. So we have Uranus changing signs. So that only happens once every 7 years. It's quite a significant shift. Moving from an earth sign, which is quite grounded and it's more kind of shaking things up and on the material plane to an air sign where Uranus is a lot more resonant with that energy, but it speeds things up. It makes things faster. It makes things a lot more dynamic, I guess is the word I'm looking for. And then we also have a full moon as well. So full moons bring heightened emotion, they bring heightened energy, they're the peak of a cycle, and then that's all happening in the height of summer. So we have now shifted from the wood element energy of the Chinese medicine wheel, and we're now shifting into a season of fire. So we're already in fire now as of about a week ago. So in the Chinese element system, the Chinese medicine element system, each season is ruled by a particular element, and then we have the earth element, which kind of keeps us grounded and sees us through the transitions of each season. Now, the summer is ruled by the fire element, and fire is it's it's the heart and the small intestine that's activated at this time rather than the liver and the gallbladder, which is the spring season, where like wood element, which is what we've been in for the last like 3 months or so, that's all about taking action. It's about penetrating, it's about doing, it's about moving things forward. Now, fire is very it's like work hard, play hard. There's still a lot of energy. It's a very yang energy. There's still a lot happening, but it's less directional and I guess more vibrant, I guess would be the word that I would use here. So it is about freewheeling, it's about joy, it's about enjoyment and pleasure, but there's a lot of energy coming with it as well. Now, fire out of balance can be quite scattered. It can be so that the emotions that are associated with this season is the transmutation of anxiety to joy. And they're kind of two sides of the same coin, similar to the spring when it was more anger and frustration. Um, Fire is anxiety to joy. So it's heightened energy, it's heightened emotion, especially at a full moon, but it's heightened, it's high, it's kind of jittery. And anxiety and joy, even though they are obviously very different emotions, they have a similar sensation. And that's really what we're looking at here. So being fresh into the fire season, having a Uranus transit, moving into Gemini, which is already quite scattered and very fast moving. And then also having a full moon at the same time, which is like summer energy and a full moon. They're exactly the same archetype of energy. There's just a lot going on this week. However, the one lovely blessing we have is that this full moon is in Capricorn. So it's a bit more grounded. It's going to keep things calmer and we're going to need to lean on the practicality of the Capricornness in this full moon to keep us grounded through this time. But grounding is super important. And that's really going to be the thing that's going to see us through. A couple of things that we missed there when I went away. So we had Jupiter in Cancer. We had a lovely Jupiter in Cancer new moon. And one thing that I actually noticed with this ingress is like, even though it's really lovely and Jupiter is at home in Cancer, it loves to be there. It's going to bring like growth and expansion in a certain area. But with it moving in and straight away squaring that Saturn, there's definitely a slower burn to some of the positive potential of this transit. Now, that's not to say it's not coming, but that square to Saturn and Neptune in Aries is kind of tempered some of the expansion that's potential, but it's coming, right? So again, more towards the end of July, we're going to start to really, really feel the benefits of this. While we do have, it's still a positive transit, it's still helping us, it's still kind of like starting to bring like nourishment and nutrition into that area of life, there is still a tempering here. Saturn is kind of restricting the expansion that Jupiter will bring, and that's okay. So I did touch on that a little bit more, but I don't think I maybe emphasized enough after doing a few readings for people and also having some conversations with people of like the area of life this is hitting. It's become quite apparent that the Saturn Neptune has kind of continued some of this energy into has continued some of this kind of like restriction, particularly those that have had Saturn returns, especially in Pisces. It's like, whereas usually we get a bit of reprieve when Saturn moves into a different sign, because it's with Neptune and that Saturn Neptune was happening in Pisces for so long before it moved into Aries. It feels like a little bit of a continuation. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. Again, things are going to get lighter and easier. Saturn's about to station retrograde and is then going to move back into Aries by September, Pisces, sorry, by September. So there will be a lessening off of this, and then Jupiter can really expand and do its job. But I just wanted to make a note of that. We've also had Mars move into Virgo as well. So Mars was in Cancer and Leo, like combined with all those retrogrades for such a long time. So that Mars ingress into Virgo really feels like, okay, now we are officially moving on. So Mars likes to get into the details in Virgo. It loves spreadsheets. It loves to be organized. You might find a sense of a physical drive to pay attention to the details and kind of get into what needs to be organized. It's very, very organizational energy. So depending on what area of life this is falling for you, depends on where you might be feeling this energy, but it might be a surge of energy to like really take action on things, because Mars is the planet of action as well. So for example, for me, it's in my ninth house of long distance travel. Great time to like make a spreadsheet, plan a trip, do the budgeting, understand exactly where we're going to go, like really get into the details, how we're going to get to different places, all of that stuff. So it's great transit, really helpful, gonna like, I guess, supercharge and give some energy in a certain area. So really want to pay attention to. With it being co-present with the South Node though, and Mars is a malefic planet at its core, even though it brings energy and drive and the like energy to do. What I would say with this transit is there could also be like a closing out, maybe some karma that might bring some frustration and friction that then when we resolve it will help us to let go and clear something out for good. So just be mindful of that also potentially being a theme. Okay, so, and then we are also next week, we've got a Mercury station coming up. So, again, that's just like adding to the chaos of this week a little bit, because that Uranus is moving into a Mercury ruled sign. We've got Mars in a Mercury ruled sign as well. They're both adding energy to that Mercury energy. And the Mercury is kind of like preparing to station retrograde, while Mercury kind of goes backwards. Uranus is kind of crazy energy, which is like fun, I guess, and a little bit wild. So, it's just bringing this kind of like, sort of energy to the week. Not a bad thing. It's shaking things up, right? So it's nothing to fear. It's not like an inherently negative transit at all, but it's just so important that we ground. And also that fire energy, that joyful energy, that potential, unless it's grounded and centered, it can't actually give us the long-lasting contentment that we are looking for. And that's one thing that we're really working on in the membership at the moment, in our 21-day experiment. It's all focused on the radiant circuits, developing joy, but not excitement and exhilaration, because that's when, like, if you think fire that burns too hot too fast, it burns out, right? So what we're looking for is to kind of ground and center and contain that flame of joy and contentment and peace and connection with life. And that is exactly what we're doing. So we're running a 21-day program on our membership. It's a program of 21 practices. We have live weekly coaching calls where we keep each other on track, check in. We've got a structure of journal prompts. It's an incredibly transformative structure that we have used. I think this is maybe our 10th or 11th experiment that we've run. Our members absolutely love it. So guys on the membership really lean on these practices, and also don't worry if you fall a couple of days behind. I'm actually a week behind because I've been away. So it's okay that we're all at different levels. We're going to use these weekly calls to check in, and we always do like an extra couple of like live weekly calls afterwards, because we know people start at different times. So use the journal prompts and practices to guide you. It like we're working with stimulating these energies of joy and excitement and contentment, but we're really centering those, and that's what the experiment is all about. So it's not that this is going to add to you and tip. It's not going to add and tip over the edge. It's going to help you to integrate all of this energy that's going on. So if anyone else wants to join us as well, then please feel free to do so. You can join us on our website. Again, we've got a live weekly coaching call on Wednesday, so it's still not too late to join, and you can connect with everybody and yeah, join. Just go at your own pace. Everybody goes at different paces. Some people like repeat sessions over and over again if they're working on something specific. So it's not that you need to start at the same day that everybody else did. Okay, let's actually get into it. Sorry, talking for 10 minutes already. So Monday, the 7th of July, which is today, Uranus is moving into Gemini. So Gemini, Uranus and Gemini is very like technology, communication. Um, the like Uranus is the planet of awakening, of freedom, of revolution. It kind of like earthquakes, it kind of injects energy. It's like the lightning bolt. Um, Gemini is technology. It's really going to inject a bit of life into the development of tech so far. So we've had Pluto moving into Aquarius, which really accelerated all of this like AI explosion. Uranus moving into Gemini, trining that Pluto, and that's going to be an ongoing aspect now for quite a long time. This is really accelerating that. So this is almost taking us to the next level. Aquarius is more like a bigger picture. It's ruled by Saturn, so it's about structure, it's long lasting, it's very like zoomed out, it's more about the collective, right? But Gemini is a bit more like in the day to day. So where like the development of like a massive structure and system like ChatGPT came out just around when Pluto ingressed into Aquarius, and there was a huge explosion of AI. This Uranus moving into Gemini feels like it's going to bring changes, but maybe in a more like local way. So, like more integrated into our daily lives and maybe have more impact in the day to day than it has done so far. So, this is also because it's moving from one sign of your chart where it's been for 7 years into another. This is an upgrade in a part of life over the next 7 years. So this could bring freedom. It could bring like an itch and a kind of like want for change. It could be groundbreaking. It could be awakening. So have a look at where this is falling in your chart. Have a look at where Gemini sits in your chart. So if it's in your sixth house, for example, this could be shaking up how you approach your day-to-day life. It could be a complete 180 in the way that you work, because sixth house is like daily labor, not necessarily like the direction of your career. That's more 10th house. But sixth house is like your day-to-day, how you operate. It could be you just really start getting a craving of a shake-up of like how you eat your food, how you exercise, your health, anything like that. So great time to pay attention to those things. If this is happening in your ninth house, it might be like itchy feet, long distance travel. Fourth house, it could shake up the way you live, like where you want to live. So generally, Uranus transits to your chart because they're longer term. They're sometimes less personal unless they're actually aspecting planets in your chart. So, say you have, I don't know, like your sun at 1 degree of Gemini, that then it's going to be impacting you more personally. However, when signs ingress into a sign for the first time, we get a flavor of what that 7 year journey is all going to be about, or however long that planet is going to be in that sign. So even though some people it might not hit super, super clearly than others, it's always worth paying attention to anyway. It's going to bring revolution and an itch for freedom and an itch for change in a certain area of life, and you're really going to notice that. It's not going to stay in Gemini too long. It will be here. It will retrograde back into Taurus and finish up its journey there. But just someone to be one to be aware of. It's really going to call you to like innovate and update an area of life. So have a look. And I guess it also brings you like cognitive understanding of where you're being pushed to focus. Like that's why being aware of these shifts can be so helpful, because maybe logically we're thinking, oh, I need to focus on my career, but actually, where the energy is for you right now is to shake up your foundational life, like your routines, your structures. And when you do that, then that gives you the energy and everything you need to then develop your career. So, pay attention to those urges. And when we really understand astrology, it can help us give literacy over the things that we already know are true without like letting the mind kind of run the show. So, okay, so this is a 7 year transit, so there's no need to rush. There's a lot of time, but I guess it is like I was saying then, just like trust the urge and trust the like uncomfortableness. If you're suddenly feeling a little bit like edgy or you want to do something, like it's okay, pay attention to it, but also don't rush. Like you've got time, but use that urge for freedom as your compass to know where you're being called to focus. This is the final tone shift of 2025. So I don't know if you guys remember, but me talking about how big the year of 2025 is, because we had so many outer planets shifting signs, so many like more generational planets shifting signs, which brings such a different tone to the collective than we've had before. And the fact that they were all doing it in the same year was a massive deal, right? This is the last shift that we're having before the planets all then station retrograde, and we kind of go back to tie up the loose ends before we then fully integrate into this new now. So for the next like couple of months, it's kind of like a preview of what the next like 3 to 5 years is gonna all be about, right? So pay attention to the themes and also like know that this is a new beginning. Like this is a real shift into something. And then if things start to revert back, we need to kind of tie up some loose ends and like really close something out before we then completely move forward. So this is just a preview, but it's here, right? And that's like all the big change that's happened this year. After that, things aren't as I don't want to say not as crazy because that's not true because it's 2025 and it is a crazy year, but they're not as like intense, I guess. Like we've had all the change now. We know what it's about. Now it's just about riding it out, right? We know now what the tone shift is, and this week is going to be the first preview of like, okay, this is it now. This is what we're focusing on, and this is what energy we have moving forward. Okay, so moving on. Venus in Gemini, trining Pluto in Aquarius. So this is relational and transformational. Venus, the planet of relationships, Pluto, the planet of transformation, in the sign two air signs which represent communication. So this is a bit of an echo of what's to come because we're going to have Uranus coming to trine this Pluto in Aquarius in an air sign, and that's going to be like a long-term trine that's going to be happening. Super supportive, really nice. Um, will probably accent the Uranus ingress even more as well because it's happening in Gemini. And then it's like getting a bit of support from that Pluto, even though it's not like an exact, it is going to kind of emphasize that Gemini energy even more and that Uranus energy even more. So again, Monday, like a very electrifying day and a very wild, like lots happening. So keep grounding yourself. Um, it is like an aspect in two signs associated with communication, innovation. It's relational, it's about the future. Pluto brings transformation and I guess is revolutionary, particularly in Aquarius. Um, Venus brings like a harmony and connection and beauty, and it softens and honeys some of the wildness that this initial ingress might bring as well. Because Venus is feminine, it's soft, and it is in like harsher air signs here. So there's a sense of like Uranus is kind of bringing this electrifying energy. Pluto is like strong, powerful, transformational. And then we have this like softness of Venus. So it actually is really beneficial, this, because it's a trine anyway. That's lovely. But Venus is going to honey and calm things down a little bit. But this is maybe an invitation, and have a look at where this is falling in your chart as well, where Gemini is, as I mentioned, and then also Aquarius. So what it's activating. So for me, it's my second house of finances and my sixth house of daily work, rhythms, that kind of thing. Um, so that support there, maybe like it's a great day to have like a really good conversation about personal finances with someone that you work with, or like, maybe that's not a good example, or like maybe it's a good day to have a conversation with your boss about like a pay rise, for example, because there's support there to have like good conversations, and then there's also like potential there for you to um like it's there's a softness there with Venus, and there's like because it's Uranus, it's progressive. So it's like it's helping you move forward in a way where there's support and you can actually have conversations about how you could maybe grow your financial situation or whatever. And that's if that's hitting your chart in a certain way. So have a look at where this is hitting your chart because it'll give you an indication of what's actually going to be helpful. So yeah, like in this trine, it's very positive and supportive. It accelerates innovation, it's future progression, perhaps with others, and it might really transform something. And transformation is something that's lasting. It's not like a change. A transformation is a permanent change. So Pluto brings that, and because it's supporting Venus, it's helping. It's not like as dramatic as maybe a square with Venus, which would be a bit more destructive. Okay, then Thursday, the 10th of June, we have a grounding full moon, if you could really say that, in Capricorn. So this is happening at 9:36 p.m. So get outside and have a little look. It should be visible in the sky by then, as far as I'm aware. And it's happening at 18 degrees. So Capricorn, it's funny because full moons are very big energy, right? They bring heightened emotion. And then a full moon ruled by Saturn, though, is like it's quite different. Saturn is cool. Saturn is structured, it's like emotion flows. Capricorn is more grounded. Um, and structured. So it kind of contains some of the wildness and bigness that a full moon may bring. So it's more this full moon about being practical, getting clear on like a fixed goal or a direction you want to move in. Um, it's a culmination of a larger cycle as well. So the Capricorn full moon would have been roughly around the winter solstice, new moon, sorry, would have been roughly around the winter solstice before or after, I can't quite remember. Um, and that's really a time to set intentions. So with moon cycles, we obviously have the monthly 30-day cycle, but we also have like an opportunity to work with them in 6-month cycles as well. So the new moon, something we seed at the new moon, then kind of comes to a culmination and fruition at the full moon. And then it's about evaluation and moving on until we get to the new moon again. And that happens in certain areas of life. So this might happen in your first house, it might happen in your 10th house of career. And we have these larger cycles within the smaller monthly cycles. And with it just being the summer solstice as well, like that, those are two like halfway points throughout the year. They're really helpful points to review a little bit. So full moons shine a light, they bring clarity. I would really recommend doing some like reflection work and like setting some really clear, practical, tangible goals for the rest of the year and really use this energy because especially coming off the back of the solstice, particularly if you didn't set any intentions, this is a great opportunity to ride some of that energy and really, really make the most of it. Um, so it's foundational, it's goal setting, like Capricorn is cardinal earth. It begins the physical manifestation of things. So it can be really, really helpful. Like it shines a light, it energizes that practical, clear-mindedness. Then we do have like all of this air energy, which is quite supportive this week, which gives us like the mental, cognitive understanding of things. And as long as that's grounded, it can be used really effectively. So I'd really encourage you to do some goal setting, but also particularly with full moons, it's more about like reflection, release. It shines a light on where things are going well, but also potentially where things aren't going so well. So it might shine a light potentially on where you're uncomfortable with being practical, moving towards goals, being methodical. Um, so use the light of this full moon to get really practical about what needs to go, what needs to be released. Is there something you want to clear and cleanse? Because the light of a full moon can be so helpful, but also it is that release point. Like if you think like the new moon's here and the new moon's here and the top of the mountain is here, that's the full moon. So it's really about we're building, we're building, we're building, we're building, we're building. We reach the top, and when you reach the top of the mountain, especially walking uphill for a while, you're like, okay, we made it, and now it's all downhill from here. So it's more like we've reached the culmination, and then now we move into the period of review. So again, because there's so much practicality and clearness, it's really helpful. Okay. So, and then on Saturday, the 12th of June, Saturn is going to station retrograde. So, Saturn has popped on over into Aries for the first time. So, it's begun the Saturn return for a lot of people in Aries. So, if things have got a bit crazy in your life and you have Saturn in Aries for the last couple of months, that's why. We're going to get a little bit of a break. It's almost like a first taster. Saturn is going to go back into Pisces in September, but it's starting to move backwards now. It just takes a while. So it's going to go back into Pisces in September, and then we're going to have the final wrap up of that Saturn return for everybody with Saturn in Pisces until February. And then it's then going to move into Aries and stay there then for then like roughly like 2.5 years ish. So it's a bit of a review, this, of some of the questions that Saturn has kicked up since it's been in Aries. This is the period of time where, like, okay, it's kind of brought up the themes. It's ingress. We kind of know what this phase is all going to be about now, or maybe we have some inkling or idea. And now is the period of time where we review it and really understand it before we're in it fully. So, where have you been invited to like anchor, take responsibility, create some form of structure? So, again, look in your chart. Where do you have Aries in your chart? Is it your fourth house of home? Where have you been, or like, your parents potentially? Have you been called to like step up and take responsibility for a parent in your life? Saturn brings like it wants us to ground, it wants us to take responsibility, it wants us to create a foundation and a structure, and it also wants to teach us lessons, and it wants us to really it wants us to commit. So, it could be if you're having us in your ninth house, though, however, that it wants you to commit to structuring and taking responsibility for traveling long term, like Saturn is the long term. So it's not that it's all about, staying in one place and being really sensible, which, I mean, Saturn and sensible, yeah, pretty much what we're looking for there. But yeah, it depends. It depends how it's how it's hitting your chart, and also pay attention to what the last couple of months have kicked up, particularly in the area of life, this area of life, because it's going to give you a really clear idea of what the next couple of years is all going to be about for you. Um, Cool. Yeah. And then those guys who have Saturn in Pisces, most of you, your Saturn return's pretty much wrapped up. It's going to retrograde back to 25 degrees. So if you've got anything from 25 to 30 degrees or 29 degrees, sorry, of Pisces, then you're going to get another pass. And the full Saturn return isn't over. If you have it, like I'd say more like 21 degrees to 0 degrees, your Saturn return is over, but this is just like an echo and a wrapping up of what this period of time has all been about for you. Whereas those with the later degrees of, let's say, the last like 20 to 29 degrees roughly, this is kind of like a second pass of your Saturn return. It's already kicked up the themes and the information of like what it is that it's all about for you, but it it might it might just kind of bring like a real, like it's almost like getting to be like, are you sure you learned the lesson though? Like, really? Did you? Because this is your last chance to like really step up and claim the responsibility. So pay attention to it. Um, Take responsibility, it'll pay dividends. And then Sun in Cancer trying the North Node in Pisces. So this is just a night, and that's on Saturday, the 12th of June as well. So even though we've got like a station retrograde, we also have a nice surge forward. So this is it's shiny, it's clear, it's a perhaps like an because it's in water signs, it could be potentially be like a an emotional urge to move in a certain direction because the North Node pushes us in a direction. It gives us like a nudge and a little bit of like I need to go here. Like there's energy here for me, and I don't know why. Um, with the sun energizing that, and with it being in water signs and them like flowing and working together in a trine, it really helps us move in a certain direction. So it's very supportive, and it just gives us that push that maybe we need. So that is pretty much everything I wanted to cover. It's so nice to be back. Again, what I would say, guys, on the membership, really, really get stuck into the 21-day experiment. We've got our first live coaching call on Wednesday, so that's gonna be really nice to kind of unpack everyone's experiences so far, share what we've been going through, and also our intentions for how we're going to move forward. Those of you outside of the membership, if you do want to join us, please do. And yeah, we'll catch up next week in another weekly video. Lots of love. Mwah.